I want to congratulate you and We the World on the 20th anniversary of 11 days of global unity. Together, you, me, and we can create a better world and have fun doing it.
Welcome to the 11 Days of Global Unity Summit and celebrating the 20th anniversary of 11 Days of Global Unity. My name is Jana Larsen, and I am the Human Resources Director and the coordinator of the Economic Justice Campaign of We the World, as well as many other things for We the World. Today, I'm excited that we will be joined by Jean Dolgoff and Kathryn Davis, who will be talking about health. For the full 11-day schedule, you can register for free by going to we.net, and you can see replays of the recordings. You can also make a contribution to support We the World by going to we.net, and we thank you. Now let's bring in my co-host, Rick Ulfik. Rick Ulfik is the founder of We the World at we.net and co-creator of 11 Days of Global Unity. Welcome to the broadcast, Rick Ulfik.
Thank you, Jana. And thank you all so much for joining us. Welcome to the annual 11 Days of Global Unity Summit, featuring visionary leaders and activists working for people and the planet and a world that works for all. Our summit panels on each of the 11 summit themes range from unity to environment to human rights, freedom, and peace. And I and we are deeply grateful that you are helping us to celebrate the 20th anniversary of 11 Days of Global Unity. Before we bring on our extraordinary speakers, I want to acknowledge some of our amazing partners who we support and collaborate with during 11 Days of Global Unity and all year round. The UN International Day of Peace NGO Committee, the UN Summit of the Future, the Unite for Peace Coalition, which includes Unity Earth, Peace Week, the Sign Network, One World, We the World, the deep and rapid transformation convergence at Cathedral St. John the Divine, Pause the World in Times Square, and Pace e Bene, Nonviolence Campaign and March. What an amazing movement representing literally millions of people working to achieve global unity, all working with We the World and the We campaign at we.net. And on today's panel, we are discussing health. And now I'm excited that we will be joined by Jean Dolgoff and Kathryn Davis. Let's start with Jean. Jana?
Today we have Jean Dolgoff, and he is the founder and chairman of HoloBeam Technologies Incorporated, which has been granted a U.S. patent for a process that can safely send energy waves through the body to detect, diagnose, and treat cancer and arterial plaques without harming healthy tissue or causing unwanted side effects.
And
Well,
Jean?
I have to
Yes.
qualify that one
Yeah, go ahead.
because when you say it can, that's not yet accurate. We
Ah,
are developing products for the purpose of doing those things.
ah,
So we're not at the point where it can do that yet.
ah. And you're in on the way to it.
Yeah, well, that's the whole purpose of our company. Yeah.
Exactly. So I just wanted to also say that Gene and I have been friends since junior high school and have watched him making holograms since 1964, advancing imaging technology to the point where he is poised to to be possibly able to treat cancer. Is that how you would like to say it?
Just, yeah, I want to be accurate.
Yeah, exactly. And isn't that incredible? So, Jean, please give us a brief introduction to your work and maybe even mention some challenges that you may have faced, getting to the where you are now. And welcome to the broadcast, Jean Dolgoff.
Thank you so much, Rick. Uh, my interest in cancer started when I was 8 years old, when I had a friend who was the same age that one day did not come to meet me for a play date, and I was told that he had passed away from cancer. That was kind of shocking and piqued my interest in what is cancer, and being an aspiring inventor at 8 years old, I wanted to find out all that I could to perhaps cure it. Um, and that started my quest in that direction. Throughout the years of my life, I went through a lot of different scientific things and learned a lot of technology that was in different areas that played a role eventually in my getting to where we are now. Uh, the basic approach that everybody takes in the world to deal with cancer is basically a combination of four things. One is surgery. They go in to take out the tumor, but it's usually not effective enough because tumors often wind themselves around blood vessels and nerves and muscles and so on. So you can cut out a lot of it, but it's luck. It's a matter of, was the tumor big, was it small, and so on. So sometimes surgery can be great, but usually it's only a partial step. Then there's chemo. People get chemotherapy. They're given drugs that are poison, actually. And the idea is to provide just enough poison to kill the cancer cells without killing the patient. And that doesn't always happen. Sometimes the patient is killed. So it's a brutal way to go, but sometimes it's helpful and adds years to a patient's life that they wouldn't have had if they didn't have the chemo. Um, then there's radiation therapy, where X-ray beams are sent into the patient to kill the tumor. And X-ray beams can kill tumors, but they also kill healthy cells. So there's a lot of side effects caused by that. And then the newest approach is called immunotherapy, where uh, certain chemicals are introduced to stimulate the immune system so that a patient can, in a way, cure their own cancer. And that has been successful in a small number of patients. But as a widespread solution, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So that's what's done now for cancer. And cancer is really the worst disease in our world because it's now starting to surpass heart disease as the number one killer of people. 1 out of every 2 men and 1 out of every 3 women will get cancer. That's a fact. So about every 3 seconds, another person dies from cancer. So it's very serious. And these approaches, there's a lot of people working on different variations of these four approaches, and some progress is being made. But there's no panacea yet. There's no way to cure it. There's no way to end the big problem of killing so many people and creating tremendous suffering. So the approach that I developed is very different. I worked with a lot of different researchers through the years. I was very fortunate to be around a lot of brilliant researchers. And the approach that we took was to send what are called nanoparticles, very tiny particles that are a few billionths of a meter in size, into the body through an IV and get them to attach to tumor cells and then send energy from outside the body, electromagnetic energy, which will then go to those nanoparticles and heat them up. And since they are attached to the tumor cells, then that'll heat up the tumor cells and get rid of them. Well, that's the theory. And a lot of researchers and I around the world experimented with this with a little bit of success, but basically, same problem. The electromagnetic energy also heats up healthy cells, creating all those dangers of side effects and so on. So what was needed was a way to get the energy to go directly to the nanoparticles and the tumor cells they were attached to without affecting the healthy cells. And that is a major challenge. And the answer that I came up with is something that I also came up with for Star Trek, which is the use of teleportation. And that's, of course, science fiction. You know, you'll say that doesn't exist. But actually, it's not science fiction anymore. Because using holography, I was able to come up with a way to teleport energy into the body to bypass all the healthy cells and go directly to the tumor cells. Now, you may wonder, how the heck can this work? So I'm going to show you two pictures, one a still picture, one a moving picture, that can show you the basic principle of how this works. Let me start by saying, most of you will have heard of sound cancellation headphones, and you put them on and it cancels a lot of the noise around you. Well, the way that works is sound is a wave, and so you take that wave and you recreate it and you put it back on itself out of phase. So when the wave is going up, the other wave is going down, and they cancel each other out. So by canceling the waves, which is called destructive interference, the sounds you don't want are canceled. Well, it's the basic same idea, only with electromagnetic waves. So this can be done in a few ways, and I have devised some ways to do it and put it into a patent which has been granted in the US and is now pending in about 15 other countries. And fortunately, I've gotten a lot of interest from a lot of PhDs and scientists who want to work with me in this company to develop it. So let me just show you the basic principle in action. I'm going to share the screen, and this should work. Okay. So what you see here is a tank of water, and around the periphery of the tank of water are these solenoids. These are simply electromagnetic coils, and whenever you send a current to the solenoid, it causes the magnet to pull a rod, which causes a paddle to hit the water and create waves that go into the water. So we have 50 of them all the way around, and these are connected to a computer. So using a really complex algorithm, these paddles are hitting the water at just the right times so they can send their waves through the water, which overlap each other, cancel each other in certain places, and add to each other in other places. So we said, okay, let's imagine that the tumor is in the shape of an S, and we want to get the energy to go there, but nowhere else. So here is the tank of water, and you see the waves add up to push the water up right in the middle in the shape of an S. But the rest of the tank, the water is flat, as if there was no energy there. It's because the energy is being teleported to the center of the tank, and that's where you want it to be. So here the water is flat, where the rest of your healthy cells in your body would be. And here's where the tumor would be, and there's where the energy shows itself. So this is an illustration that shows the basic principle of this process. Now I'll show you one other illustration of it. which is a video. And we got to get this back to the beginning. So, all right, let's see if this works. Okay, yes, it is. All right, so you see these paddles moving the water. This is a much bigger tank, a lot more paddles, but it's the same idea. But what we want to do is create the energy in the center of the tank and not other places. So here's what happened. A column of water shot out of the center and went 90 feet in the air, which you can see happening right here. So it's the same basic principle. By canceling the energy everywhere else except where you want it, you can make that energy appear in that spot. And so that is what I call holographic energy teleportation. So that's the basic principle that we are working on in our company, to develop devices, machines that can go into the body, detect tumors at a much smaller scale than current machines can do, and then send energy to those tumors and cause the elimination of the tumors. That's the goal. This technology could also be used for other diseases. So, for instance, we have plaque buildup in our arteries, which eventually leads to heart attacks and strokes in a lot of people. And this is why heart disease, cardiovascular disease, is still the #1 killer in most places in the world. Well, what we could do with this technology is also detect the plaque buildup on those arteries, and we could then send the energy to heat up that plaque and vaporize it, so that the plaque would not create clots, and therefore it would stop strokes and heart attacks. And this is all non-invasively, because we're not doing surgery, we're not using drugs, we're not cutting open the patient. It's really non-invasive. So that's the aim. And we believe this also could be utilized for neurological diseases as well. So that's what we're working on at Holobeam Technologies. And I'm very excited about it. And so are all the people that work with us. Any questions?
Yes, many questions, but I just want to say thank you, Jean, and we will have a kind of a round table in a moment. But thank you so much, Jean. This is incredible, and to be continued. So let's hear from Kathryn Davis.
Well, I will introduce her right now. Kathryn Davis has been the producer of Heart of Mind Radio since 2000, broadcasting on the WBAI Pacifica Network and the Progressive Radio Network. Kathryn is a meditation and movement teacher, a spiritual doula, vibrational healer, and is certified as a Qigong teacher.
And Kathryn has been a good friend for many years, and she is the leader of We the World's health campaign. So I and we look forward to hearing about your work and an exciting program that I know that you are developing. So welcome to the broadcast, Kathryn Davis.
Oh, thank you so much for having me come in here and show and explain how I am hoping to put an invitation to our viewers, our listeners, and those who are connected to the We.net organization to participate in helping to build this campaign. And I'm going to share with you some of the overall plan. And this is the health campaign at we.net, building a better, healthier future for ourselves, our families, our communities, and our world. And we want to invite you to join this health campaign for integrative, interdependent, and holistic perspectives, information and support for self-care and healthy lifestyles, the study of peer-reviewed research in holistic healthcare systems, interaction and consultation with healthcare professionals, and I am dedicating this revitalization to integrating the 8 dimensions of wellness. And some of the self-learning tools we're going to be integrating is to deepen our understanding of our health with regard to our body's natural systems and their functions as sustainers of life itself, practical steps and stages of how, when, and why to support these natural systems and functions, emergency self-care, and learning how to sustain good health and all-encompassing well-being. Important to this is learning about the symptoms and signs that act as guideposts for your choices and actions, how to understand when things are critical or systemic to the extent that you must go to the emergency room, get properly tested, and engage with care of allopathic medicine. And I include this because my personal dedication is to holistic healing. But there's a spectrum of health where you absolutely have to go to the doctor for the allopathic care, for the emergency drugs. And our objective is to preempt the need for that, but we need to be able to tell the difference. And also, we're going to be looking in this program on healthcare systems like Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, orthomolecular medicine, and what questions to ask your healthcare provider to determine the value of each system for your particular health issues. So for some people, a more slowly progressive system of healthcare will work because they're not in a state of emergency. In other systems, you are more useful if your health is in a state of emergency. And why do I think this is important? I'm not showing the studies here, but there is a great deal of evidence that we are in a massive healthcare crisis in this country. And there are situations where their excess death is rising up to 40%, from 20 to 40%, depending on the locations and the conditions. I'm not going to speak to the cause, but I just feel that we're living within an era of such amplification of our stressors and amplification of environmental issues. And we have people who have been sustaining long-term chronic conditions. And when all this comes together, for whatever reason and under whatever condition, it's leading us to a state of emergency with regard to our health. Also, as a part of this program, we're going to be featuring interactive self-learning tools, videos, live talks, and Q&As, demonstrations of healthcare systems and their appropriate use, counsel and coaching from participating healthcare professionals. So the idea here is to invite people who are certified, trained healthcare professionals to become volunteers and partners of the health campaign so that we can expand the education process that we are aiming to provide for our members, our participants, and the future. People yet to be born. 8 dimensions of wellness. So this is really looking at wellness as more than just what's happening in the physical body. That's part of it. There is emotional wellness, physical, occupational, social, spiritual, intellectual or mental wellness, environmental, and financial. And all of these dimensions interact with each other in different ways that can help to improve the state of our health or will undermine the state of our health. So we're looking at how we can combine this understanding in making our choices for reaching optimal wellness. And this writing comes to you from the Rocky Mountain School. It's about wellness. Although people often think about wellness in terms of physical health, wellness is multidimensional and holistic integration of body, mind, spirit. It generally includes the interconnection of the various dimensions, and then problems in either of these dimensions can impact other facets of our health. And so rather than focusing on problems and issues, the wellness approach emphasizes positivity and internal motivation to increase your active participation in managing problems and life stress to prevent crisis situations. And this is primarily the direction where we're going to go with our campaign, to actually provide the tools to help people transform their own health. And we go through here a series of explanations of the different kinds of wellness. I think I'll post this and not read through every single one because it's a lot of material. But emotional wellness is about the ability to cope with life stress. Physical wellness consists of healthy habits, nutrition, sleep, exercise, and the like. Spiritual wellness consists of personal beliefs, values that provide meaning and purpose in life. It's not really about religion. Social wellness consists of having positive, healthy, and meaningful relationships with friends, family, and community. And so it's really important for people to consider their support systems and how they can be a support and mentors for other people in their families. Mental wellness is about interacting with creative and stimulating activities to expand knowledge and skills. Financial wellness consists of finding a balance among the psychological, physical, and spiritual aspects, and our relationship with money, our relationship with work. Environmental wellness is beginning to recognize what we're doing that has having an impact on our health. Is our water clean? Is our food clean? Are we living in environments that are degraded or have some kind of environmental spills? So we have to be cognizant of our breathing, our drinking, our consuming from an environment that is not well, and think about how we can work towards healing and cleaning our environments. And occupational wellness is really about just exploring our work and understanding how that work feeds into our wellness, if it's stressful, if it's abusive, and how we can advocate for ourselves for better occupational conditions, as well as bringing our best work to our occupations. So health is related to the world in which we live. And some of the programs that are underdeveloped right now that will be helping us to take charge of our health are a 3 to 5 day protocol for detoxifying the body, resetting our gut health in 5 days, in the neighborhood of 5 days, understanding the needs of and learning to support our human immune system, how to support our natural hormone function, heart, blood, and viscera. What are the health challenges? What is the relationship of movement to life? Movement, exercise, all the things that we need to do to stay alive and healthy. Food as medicine or food as addiction or poison. How to get started at the supermarket. We can choose what to feed our body. Exploring the potential of safe herbs, spices, food, and off-label drugs as remedies for common health issues. Understanding the complications of compounding of medicinal side effects. 5 ways to reset our subconscious mind and transform our negative mind into an ally for progress. How to counteract the addictive response and to plan a strategy and timeline for recovering our health. And these are some of the modalities that we're going to explore, from acupuncture to hypnotherapy to art therapy to reflexology, orthomolecular healing, functional medicine. There are a wide variety of modalities that we will be exploring, as well as practices: yoga, tai chi, qigong, pilates, walking, meditation. Getting sufficient sleep is a big thing that we're not paying attention to, and how to reduce bad habits and clutter. And this is an example really of, I don't know if I can open this up bigger, but this is an official medical site, Medline Plus, where we can go in and begin to see the drugs, the herbs, the supplements that can be applied to specific conditions. The research is right there, and then we will look to find other practitioners to help with our program. And I want to look at also integrating the health campaign with We.net's 11 campaigns for global unity and change, I've called it, with projects at the intersection of health and wellness. So we have our 8 dimensions of health, and we can see that there's a lot here in the 11 campaigns where we can make those connections between human rights and physical wellness, freedoms and financial wellness, peace and emotional wellness. So to begin implementing projects in support of mutual support of the other campaigns. And also, as part of this, we want to integrate the health campaign with fundraising and advancing PR, or spreading the word. Expand our We team of health professionals. Invite them to write articles for the Trends magazine, etc., linking their articles to their own community outreach. This allowing both we and our professional health partners to grow together. And as part of the campaign, we develop and expand the core health education programs, increase engagement by offering them to our We team's members, partners, and volunteers. Once developed, offer the programs for tuition through the We shopping cart. And we can potentially offer an economic share program for professionals and providers, like those that were offered by the New York Open Center, which is now defunct. But that's left a whole community of healthcare providers that are looking for a connection to people, and I believe that we can work together. And I am ending with this page is to join our Facebook page for updates, videos, and live stream education programs. And this is part of the We Campaign for Health and the We Campaign Health Group. And I want to encourage people to become a volunteer and join the health campaign And I have the links for either volunteer or the health campaign. And I have an email for people to offer their questions and suggestions. At the moment, it's wehealthcampaign@gmail.com. And we want everyone to join our campaign to learn and grow healthy with us. And anyone who would like to join as a healthcare professional partner, you can join as a partner on the website, but also send us a link to your website or some paragraphs about your work. And I'm signing off on this campaign as the coordinator, and my full name for a full program, Kathryn Annette Davis. So I'm going to stop the share. So it's a fairly ambitious project forward, but I feel that we have the power to help people to transform their lives and in many cases save their lives, and then build this campaign into a more public social platform so we can begin to engage on some level with the restrictions presented us. Back in the 90s, I was a healthcare professional and a healthcare activist, I would say. And I helped get passed the New York State Health and Education Act, which prevented some of these more restrictive laws against healthcare providers so that we could see a chiropractor, so that we could see an herbalist, and it protected the efficacy. And also, I was engaged in the passage of the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994, which provided for access to supplements and vitamins and herbs without them being overregulated as drugs and being retransitioned into a synthetic format, and protecting our rights to the natural herbs that grow from the earth. So a lot of my work has been that activism as well as cultivating myself as a healthcare provider. And I think the work here at we.net is an activism and teaching us each to be active and proactive in our own life, but also to understand those restrictions around us and those challenges around us and work towards dissolving them. So that's my presentation for the
Thank you.
health campaign.
Yeah, very interesting. This is the first time I'm seeing that put together. So thank you, Kathryn. And why don't we bring everybody onto the screen? My first reaction is seeing both you, Kathryn, and Jean, is between the two of you, I think you're covering the whole spectrum of health and wellness, right? Jean, your focus is on science and technology, and using dealing with situations, especially when people already have cancer and other things like plaque, like you were talking about, and 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 then we have Kathryn, who's more into mind, body, and spirit, and people's inner sense of wellness. But of course, it's all interdependent between all these things. But it seems like we're covering the whole spectrum here. I don't know. That's my
It
sense.
seems so to me as well. It's
Jana,
a
did
big
you
part of
want
the spectrum.
to say anything, and then let's hear from everybody.
Well, I think it's really true what Catherine is pointing out about the intersection of health with all the other themes. And of course, I especially think about my work with the Poor People's Campaign and bringing the voices of the marginalized populations to the people in Washington D.C. Who are making decisions, and and then just hearing other statistics that I've heard with helping with the presentations of other panels, the amazing number of children who are without parents in homes worldwide, but especially in Africa and India and Bangladesh, um, who don't have access to the whole body wellness plan. And of course, that's just so tragic, and seems like to be an overwhelming problem. But so are all of our other themes. They seem overwhelming with the problems within um, each category, for peace and disarmament and um, economic justice, as I say, and women. And so it's a good thing that we have some active campaigns and with activists leading the campaigns to bring about change. And I really commend you, Kathryn. That's a lot of work you put into it, and it's very comprehensive. So good job, Kathryn. And then
Thank you.
Gene, I mean, I can't even. uh, Physics was not my subject, but I certainly appreciate that there are people who like physics. And um, wow, I'm just pretty much speechless about what you're doing with that. But and that's been your lifelong goal, and you're still working on it. Do you think that there will be a point here, like pretty soon, for this kind of therapy to be something that can be used in modern medicine?
Uh, we are working on four different products, development of four different products simultaneously in our company, and I expect the first product to be ready for sale in about 1 year. That's a very small amount of time.
It is, and that's
And
amazing.
I think it'll really revolutionize a certain segment of medicine. And other products will be ready in 3 years and 4 years. So it's still not a tremendous amount of time when you talk about the development of such a radically different technology. So yeah, it's going to be available in our lifetimes, and I think
Wow.
will make a difference for us.
Now,
Well,
how do you determine, is there a certain kind of cancer that is easier to like try this with, or well, could I have a high success rate as compared to other types
Well,
of
that's a good
cancers?
question. We don't know if there will be different success rates for different cancers until we try them. Right now, we are planning on targeting pancreatic cancer as our first cancer target
hmm,
because it is such a devastating cancer
it is.
with such a low survival rate. So that's our first target. But I suspect that we're going to be simultaneously experimenting with different cancers and publishing the results as we obtain them. We had some experimental tests with mice and dogs, which were very successful. So we expect to be able to utilize that experience and create products that could work with the animal kingdom, so for pets as well as for people. And I think it'll be available in a relatively short number of years.
Wow, that's incredible.
And talking about and hearing about that, it brings to mind a holistic way of thinking about everything because um, this kind of technology, let's say you do um, have that you are successful um, implementing it, then there's a question: who is going to be able to benefit from it? Is it going to be available for people around the world, even people who are poor people, as a, because this is one of the things, if something uses a lot of technology, is it going to be out of a lot of people's hands?
I'm really
Uh,
glad you asked that, Rick, because that's a very important point in our program. Uh, Believe it or not, currently, uh, 70% of the world has no access whatsoever to medical imaging. No
Mm.
MRI, no CTs, and even no X-rays. We expect to bring the price way down and be able to fill that gap and make our products available to most of the world. And that's going to really be a game changer for the medical health of people everywhere.
yeah,
Mm.
that's so important.
So
Another,
I
yeah,
was
go
gonna
ahead.
say he must be in line for the Nobel Prize for in health.
Well,
Let's
maybe
hope
we
so.
have to nominate him as
Yes,
that.
let's clear
Even
that up.
now, even now with the research, I think it's pretty amazing. And hopefully you have and will receive all the funding that you need to be able to develop it. Because my experience has been so many people get worse and die from the treatment themselves. Over
Yes,
time, it's not enough for everyone, and the
yes,
side effects are so dramatic, as you mentioned before,
yes.
that it's a real struggle. And I feel that connection because there's so much in the natural world people can use to mitigate those side effects, but it would be better not to have them at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a very important point, which is most things are difficult to find funding for, especially in the beginning when companies are startup companies. And our company is a startup company. We formed the company and applied for patents in 2018. And we, like most startup companies, struggled. We had some brave investors that helped us to move forward during the last 5 years. But it was a search for a needle in a haystack. But I was committed to finding the right investor and investor group and never give up is my feeling. And so we were very fortunate that this year we finally found that needle in the haystack.
Mm.
And so we have a very wealthy partner who has put, well, I guess I can say, has put 16 million into our company. And
Bravo, bravo.
and being that he and his family are billionaires, they say that they will be putting a lot more in because they are committed to the eradication of cancer. So I think we will have the funding we need to go all the way and get these products made and do it quickly.
Mhm.
So thanks for
Wow.
bringing that
Yes.
up.
So another thing I wanted to address is, I've been very interested in health, um, and wellness, and holistic health practices. So it seems like there's, a lot of cancer in the world and chronic disease of many types. And there are also people who are working on the prevention side. In other words, there are a lot of people who look at the diet, for example, that leads to diabetes, obesity, all of these things. And there's like this, conflict between uh, those tendencies, right? People are are presented with like very low cost food, like diet soda and and all the stuff. But some of the stuff has to it is correlated with some chronic diseases, which includes uh, heart disease and cancer. So it's like we really need to be addressing a prevention, and at the same time taking care of people who then have chronic diseases like cancer and diabetes. I've been an Emmy judge for about 15 years, uh, in the areas of news and documentary as well as music and sound. And I think it was a year or two ago, I was looking at an Emmy submission, and it was talking about uh, the amount of diabetes that is expanding, the amount in the United States. It's like one of these hockey puck things. It's beyond belief. Um, it's like something like um, 10, 5% or 10%, and now in around this time, 2023, 24, 25, it's estimated it's going to be to like 25% or something. It's beyond belief, and it is correlated with things like diet and lifestyle. So we have to be aware of these things, even though we also have scientific and technical ways of dealing with people who have these diseases. I'm curious what you think about that whole discussion,
May I
Jean.
say something there about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, sure.
But a lot of it is genetics, and I thought I heard recently on a news program that they
Uh-huh.
are developing new ways to catch it quickly,
Uh-huh.
or
I
and
think
it,
I think
and
genetics
so I
is
mean that
important
could,
as
that
well.
kind of goes
Yes.
along with they have better testing, so then of course the rates are going to
Ah,
be going up, and so I
that's a
wonder
good point.
if that could be a misleading figure, but still, I
Mhm.
mean it's no secret that well, depending on what kind of diabetes you're talking about, too, type 1 and type 2, but I mean it is
Mhm.
certainly a major disease in modern
Right,
world.
right.
I would like to
But
comment
I
on
just
that.
wanted to get a response from Jean, and then we'll go to you, Catherine.
Okay, yeah. Specifically about diabetes, we really don't know what causes it. We know that the beta cells in the body don't function properly when you have diabetes, and therefore you're not producing insulin in the right way, in the right quantity, and at the right times. But we don't know the real cause. I mean, it could be that the cause is something like one of the additives that are used in all of the processed foods. Or maybe it's the growing percentage of microplastic particles in our bodies, which is
Yeah,
coming from the water that we drink.
that's right.
Uh, there could be other chemicals that are in our water and even in our air that could be the culprit, and we just don't know. So it's important to keep looking, to keep experimenting, and when there's a correlation that shows up between something like processed foods or uh, with smoking and cigarettes and even vaping and cancer and whatever, to then start campaigns of retraining and educating people to avoid these different things that have a known effect. Uh, but it's a combination of that and finding different methods, like I think we're doing, to deal with the diseases once they start.
Mhm.
And as you mentioned, uh, the sooner you detect a disease, the easier it is to deal with it. Certainly, that's true with cancer. And one of the problems with the current systems of medical imaging, MRI and CT, uh, is that the resolution of these machines are limited to 1 millimeter. So when cancers start, they're much smaller than a millimeter, and you can't detect them with those machines. If it could be detected when they're smaller, it'd be much easier to eradicate them. And that's what we hope we'll be able to do, because our systems can look at individual cells, which are much smaller than a millimeter. And so I think we'll be able to detect cancers much earlier and therefore be able to stop them before they really do any damage.
Mhm. So, Kathryn, did you want to say something about, or what are your comments about it all?
I do, thank you. Um, I wanted to respond to what Jana was speaking about earlier about um, communities in the continent of Africa. I would say the same is true of South and Central America and other parts of the world where people have been separated from some of their historical knowledge of how to integrate with the natural world, integrate with the understanding of healing. And I think part of self empowerment would be bringing those healing modalities back in, those different forms of herbal healing and spiritual healing. But also, I would say that I come from a life experience of having interface with the healthcare system with regard to my family, my friends, and I understand how the healthcare system responds in such a way that is often not helpful. And availability of certain kinds of remedies or drugs are just not present for people who are um, economically challenged. So I just think that it's important to provide help in the immediate. I think that's an important part of the mix. And I mean, I've even seen that in the COVID crisis, how poor people were sent home multiple times and not had the same access as people with healthcare or people with the resources for certain kinds of healthcare. And I also think it's important to take into consideration the levels of stress, just basic life stress of trying to survive in our world, as well as history of psychological, emotional wounding that propels people into addictive behaviors, that causes the kind of self-destructive behavior that ultimately can lead to some of these more chronic illnesses. And when you add that to the dietary poisons and environmental poisons, I am very happy to see the research that's going and that Gene that you're doing. It's significantly important. But I wonder um, what it's going to take to get approval, to be able to get at the national level, at the state of the National Institutes of Health, there may need to be a campaign to help promote something that's going to be accessible to people that won't be diverted into an economic boom for somebody else, for some corporation that is not going to make it available.
Gene,
So
what do
I
you
think
think?
there
Yeah.
needs to be support, activism, and support for the kind of science that you're doing, in addition to helping people in the now moment so that they can understand I'm on the road to a heart attack, I'm on the road to diabetes, I'm on the road to cancer. How can I slow that down? How can I stop that while we wait for the new discoveries to come into play? Because in my lifetime is great, but I know a lot of people that won't help necessarily. So I really do believe we need to do both or all of these things hand in hand, supporting the research politically as well as making educating people on how they can help themselves and actually helping them in ways that may seem not health, like mental health issues, emotional health issues, and spiritual connection, meaning all of those things contribute to the stress that leads us to disease states. So I see a rounded picture that we can all play a role in what each other are doing.
Yeah,
I
Gene?
totally agree with you. And your comprehensive overall view is amazing, and it's so important. So I'm very glad that you're at the forefront of that.
Yeah, that's great. I agree. And it's interesting, like I said, it's really a spectrum of approaches that we are talking about here. And I think it's all important at this point, all of these aspects. And I like what Kathryn was saying about some kind of media campaign to let people know uh, about your research, uh, Gene, even at the point where like a year or two when you have proven success, just getting the public to be behind it and aware of it is going to be very important at that point.
Just
Yeah.
think about how much hope that would create for so many people, and hope itself is a very positive, has a very positive influence on health. I mean, like if you don't listen to the doctor that you're going to die next week, you know, you might live past next week if you think I can make it. Um, I don't know. That's what I've heard.
Hope is really important, as it turns out. When I was going through my medical journey, Sephi lost hope a few times.
Wow.
Yeah, she thought that's the end.
Wow.
And I was kind of neutral in that way. I was just putting my one step at a time and taking, talking with the doctors and the nurses and everybody, um, and the therapists, yeah, because that's part of the holistic way of dealing with
Were they
a
able to
health.
give therapy to Sephi though? I mean, because she's
Well,
the
it's an interesting, but this is what Kathryn was talking about with like her,
caregiver.
yes, the support of community. People
Hmm.
in people's community is part of recovery for everybody. A person who's sick, but also their support system. The support people themselves need a system
Yeah.
or a constellation of support people around them. And Sephi, I said, maybe you should go to a therapist or something, or two, and she actually did two, and we tried.
Wow, that's great.
But it's friends and loved ones. That community, that kind of community, is essential
And I'm sure
for.
it contributed to your recovery.
It did,
Right. Having the
definitely.
support system there. I mean, when you're going through something alone because you don't have a support system, it doesn't matter how good the care is and the doctors are. If you just feel like gloom and doom and
That's
alone,
true.
and it
Loneliness is a
yes.
big detriment to people's health.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
especially if they have to go into an aftercare situation, and it's just
Yes.
it was not a pleasant procedure for me because I was going through hip replacement
Well,
surgery,
yeah.
and fortunately, I was so poor that I was able to get my hips replaced because I was born with hip dysplasia.
Well,
But when there was no one around that I felt cared,
well,
it was a
Oh.
tough battle.
that's rough. Yeah,
Hmm. And
exactly.
I would like to speak to that healthcare support system
Hmm.
as someone who took care of my mother had multiple sclerosis, so I cared for her since I was a child till her passing. But also, I have so many members of my family now with diabetes and heart
Wow.
disease and all of
Wow.
these conditions that have developed really accelerated over the last couple of years because people didn't have access to that help.
Hmm.
And even if you do get the help, your mental state, your emotional state, your connection to meaning is going to have an integral part of whether or not you can even integrate the healing modalities and the healing remedies. And then there's the problem of financial access. Most things are unaffordable in my family group, in my community group. Don't have the access to a lot of the things that people with even a modicum of resource and wealth can access. So I believe that really empowering people to make choices that are going to make a difference is a big part of the work of healing our communities and families, is to let them know that they actually do have the power to transform their bodies, their emotional connection. And part of the work that I'm really enthusiastically looking at is building those systems, pulling people in, inviting people in, and building those systems that people can access, but also that they can help to heal with and duplicate within their families and communities. Because realistically speaking, I mean, coming from a family that I grew up in the ghetto. I didn't have access to a lot of stuff. I didn't have the knowledge even. Didn't have food in my neighborhoods. I mean, there are things that are very remedial that I think we have to pay attention to in order to make a difference in people's lives. And as they're healing themselves, and then the expansion comes, and as the research comes online, that can become available. But it's hard to wait when you know that people you love are dying
Yeah,
or in
Yes.
pain.
And the
very
And
importance of people first therapy too, especially with people who don't have can't afford the best of care, to feel like there's someone that who is a medical professional who cares about each person that they see, and
mhm,
to help instill or reinstill that feeling of you are important, we care about you.
mhm.
exactly. So we've had an amazing conversation. Jana, do you want to take us home for dinner? Let's
Oh,
take us home for dinner.
woohoo! All right. Well, I can do that. Thank you all so much for what you are doing in the world. This has really been amazing. And thank all of you for watching this and for being a part of the 20th anniversary of 11 Days of Global Unity. Please go to we.net to get involved and even make a contribution if you want. Rick?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all for joining us. This has been a really powerful conversation. Thank you for being part of 11 Days of Global Unity 20th Anniversary Summit. And like I always do, this is a W, in case you're wondering, Gene. This is a W, and it's all about we, right? So let's go from a me society, like an M, uh, to a we society, and that's why we launched we.net. So together we can create a world that works for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.